I'm Rebecca, 34, a marketing consultant from Seattle. Last Tuesday, I discovered my husband and my own sister tangled together in our storage room. But I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I did something far more calculated. Something that would expose them both in the most humiliating way possible. Before I tell you how I trapped them both like the rats they are, hit that like button and music subscribe to this channel. Drop your location and the time you're watching this in the comments below. Trust me, you'll want to see how this plays out because what I did next was absolutely ruthless and I have zero regrets about it. Let me take you back to the beginning, to when my life seemed perfect. Or at least that's what I thought. 7 years. 7 years I was married to James. We met at a corporate networking event back in 2018. He was charming, ambitious, and seemed like everything I'd ever wanted in a partner. Our wedding was beautiful. You know who was right there beside me as my maid of honor? My sister Emma, my own flesh and blood. The person I trusted more than anyone in this world, except for my husband. Emma is 2 years younger than me. We grew up close, sharing everything: clothes, secrets, dreams. When I got engaged, she cried tears of joy. When I walked down that aisle, she was beaming at me. She told me I looked like a princess. She told me James was lucky to have me. She stood up at the reception and gave this touching speech about sisterhood and eternal bonds. I have it on video. I watched it again last week and wanted to throw up. After the wedding, Emma became a regular fixture in our lives. She lived about 20 minutes away with her husband Marcus. Marcus is a good guy, genuinely good. He's a high school teacher, patient, and kind. They'd been married for 3 years when James and I tied the knot. We'd do couples dinners, holiday gatherings, weekend barbecues. It was perfect. Our little family unit. I thought we were all so lucky to have each other. But over the past 6 months, things started changing. Subtle things at first. Little shifts that I noticed but kept dismissing because I didn't want to believe what my gut was telling me. Emma started coming over more frequently, like a lot more. She'd drop by unannounced, always with some excuse. "Oh, I was in the neighborhood. I brought you those cookies you like. I thought you might want company while James is working." And James, my devoted husband, had suddenly decided he needed to work from home more often. His office is downtown, a beautiful space with a view of the Sound. But suddenly, he claimed the commute was stressing him out. He needed the quiet of home to focus on his projects. So there he was, day after day in his home office, or so I thought. The texting was what really started to set off alarm bells. I'd walk into a room and they'd both be on their phones, and they'd look up with these guilty expressions just for a split second. I saw it happening all the time. They were constantly texting each other. I'd be sitting right next to James on the couch when his phone would light up with a message from Emma. He'd smile at the screen, then quickly type a reply, as if he didn't want me to notice. When I asked what she wanted, he'd say something vague like, "Oh, just asking about Mom's birthday present," or "She's telling me about some show she's watching." Then there were the details. Emma knew things about James, schedule that she had no business knowing. I'd mentioned that James had a meeting on Tuesday, and she'd say, "Oh yeah, the one at 2, right? How did she know it was at 2? I hadn't told her that. When I pointed it out, she brushed it off. James must have mentioned it at Sunday dinner, but I didn't remember that either. The earring was the first physical evidence, though I didn't recognize it as such at the time. I was doing laundry about 2 months ago and found one of Emma's distinctive silver hoop earrings in the basket. It was tangled up in James' dress shirt. I held it in my hand, staring at it, feeling this cold sensation spreading through my chest. When I confronted James about it, he barely looked up from his laptop. "Oh, that must have fallen off when she was here last week," he said casually. "Remember, she helped you reorganize the closet. And I had asked Emma to help me with the closet, so it made sense. Perfect sense. Except something about his tone felt off. Too casual, too prepared. Like he'd been expecting the question and had his answer ready. But I pushed it down. I swallowed that suspicion. Because what was the alternative? That my husband and my sister were having an affair. That was insane. That was the kind of thing that happened in movies. Or to other people. Not to me. Not to us. We were solid. We were family. My gut wouldn't shut up, though. That instinct, that primal knowing that something was wrong, it kept nagging at me. I'd wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning with my heart pounding, replaying conversations in my head, analyzing looks and gestures. I started paying more attention, really watching them when we were all together. And that's when I noticed it. During family gatherings, they'd disappear. Not together, never together. That would be too obvious. But Emma would say she needed to use the bathroom. And then 10 minutes later, James would say he was going to grab something from the garage. They'd both be gone for 15, 20 minutes, and then they'd drift back separately looking relaxed. Too relaxed. At Thanksgiving dinner last year, I counted. Emma went to make a phone call and was gone for 18 minutes. 7 minutes later, James went to check on the turkey. Even though it wasn't his house and the turkey was fine, they were both gone for 12 minutes. When they came back, Emma's lipstick was smudged, and James had this satisfied look on his face that I recognized. That's the look he used to give me after we made love. I felt sick. I felt like I was losing my mind. Was I paranoid? Was I manufacturing a problem where there wasn't one? I tried to talk to James about it, but I couldn't find the words. How do you accuse your husband of sleeping with your sister without sounding crazy? Especially when you don't have proof. Just feelings and observations, and this growing sense of dread. 3 weeks ago, everything came to a head. I had a business trip scheduled to Portland. 2 days, 1 night, presenting to a potential client. James knew about it for months. I'd mentioned it countless times. The night before I was supposed to leave, I was packing my bag while James hovered nearby, suddenly extra affectionate, brushing my shoulder as he passed, kissing my neck, and telling me over and over how much he'd miss me. "I wish you didn't have to go," he said, wrapping his arms around me from behind. I leaned into him, feeling guilty for my suspicions. "I'll be back tomorrow night. It's just 1 night." "I know," he said softly. "The house will feel empty without you. The house will feel empty." Those words echoed in my head as I drove away the next morning. My presentation was scheduled for 2 o'clock in the afternoon, so I left at 8 o'clock, said goodbye to James, who was still in his pajamas, told him I loved him, and drove off. Except I didn't go to Portland. I'm sorry. Did I not mention that the presentation got moved? The client called 2 days before and asked if we could reschedule for the following week. Some emergency on their end. I told them no problem, but I didn't tell James. Something stopped me from telling him. That nagging instinct, that voice in my head that had been screaming at me for months. It told me to keep quiet, so I left the house like everything was normal. I drove toward the highway like I was heading to Portland, and then I circled back. I parked my car 3 blocks away on a side street where it wouldn't be visible from our house, and I walked back. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might burst out of my chest. Part of me was praying I was wrong, that I was being paranoid and ridiculous, and that I'd get home and nothing would be happening. But I wasn't wrong. I approached our house carefully, staying behind the hedges. It was a beautiful November morning, cold and crisp, and I could see my breath in the air. Everything looked normal. Our little craftsman home with its blue door and the garden I'd spent all summer tending. It looked peaceful, innocent. I waited. I don't know what I was waiting for exactly, but I waited. I stood there in the cold for 20 minutes, watching my own house like some kind of stalker. And then I saw it. Emma's car. That distinctive red Honda CR-V that Marcus bought her for her birthday. It came around the corner and pulled into our driveway. My sister got out of her car, looked around nervously, and then walked up to my front door. She had a key. Of course she had a key. I'd given it to her years ago for emergencies. She let herself into my house, into my home. I checked my watch. It was 8:47 in the morning. I'd been gone less than an hour. I wanted to storm in right then. I wanted to throw open that door and catch them, in my living room, in my bedroom, wherever they were. But something stopped me. That same instinct that told me not to mention the canceled trip. It told me to wait, to watch, to be smart about this. So I waited. I found a spot behind the fence where I could see our backyard. We have this detached storage room out back. It's pretty big, about 12x 15 feet. James built it a few years ago to store his tools and outdoor equipment. It has electricity, insulation, even a small heater. It's basically a shed on steroids. At 9:15, my husband and my sister emerged from the house and walked across the backyard to that storage room. James was carrying a blanket from our bed. I recognized a pattern. Emma was laughing at something, he said, touching his arm in that familiar way. They disappeared inside the storage room and closed the door. I stood there frozen, my entire body going numb. Part of my brain still tried to rationalize it. Maybe they were just organizing something. Maybe it didn't mean what it looked like. Maybe they were planning a surprise for me. Maybe there was some perfectly innocent explanation for why my husband and sister needed to be alone in a storage room with a blanket. But I knew. God, I knew. The truth was crashing over me in waves, each one more devastating than the last. This wasn't a one-time thing. This wasn't a drunken mistake at a party. This was planned. This was coordinated. This was them establishing a routine, a secret system. That storage room had become their meeting place. While I was at work, while I was running errands, while I thought I was living my normal life, they were out there together. How long? That's all I could think. How long has this been going on? Months? A year? Since the wedding? The thought made bile rise in my throat. Had he ever loved me? Or was I always just the acceptable sister? The one who made more money while he really wanted Emma? And Emma, my sister. The person who knew all my insecurities, all my fears. I'd cried to her about my struggles with infertility. We'd been trying for a baby for 2 years with no success, and it was breaking my heart. I'd sobbed in her arms about it just last month. You'll get pregnant. She'd promised me it'll happen when it's meant to happen. And the whole time she was sleeping with my husband. The rage hit me. Then it started as this hot point in my chest and spread through my entire body like fire. My hands were shaking. I wanted to scream. I wanted to set the world on fire. I wanted to hurt them the way they'd hurt me. But more than that, I wanted them exposed. I wanted everyone to know what they'd done. I wanted their shame to be public and permanent. And that's when the plan formed in my mind. I pulled out my phone and checked the time. At 9:22, I moved quietly toward the storage room. It's positioned at the back of our property, hidden from the neighbors by trees and fence. Private, perfect for secret meetings. The door is solid wood with a heavy-duty latch on the outside. James installed it to keep raccoons out. I could hear them. Oh God, I could hear them through the door. The sounds were unmistakable. My sister's voice sang my husband's name, his low groan of pleasure, the sound of bodies moving against each other. I stood there listening to my life implode, and I felt something inside me break and reform into something harder, something colder. The padlock was sitting on the workbench, just outside the storage room door. It's a heavy master lock that we use to secure the room when we go on vacation. I picked it up, and the weight of it felt significant, powerful. I approached the door as quietly as I could. My hands were steady now. The shaking had stopped, replaced by this icy calm. I could still hear them inside, completely oblivious to my presence. They felt safe. They thought they had hours before I'd be home. I slid the padlock through the latch. It moved smoothly and silently before I clicked it shut, the sound echoing in the quiet morning air. It was the most satisfying click I'd ever heard. For a moment, everything inside the storage room went completely silent. They had heard it. They heard that lock clicking into place. I stood there right outside the door, waiting for them to realize what had happened. Did you hear something? Emma's voice slightly muffled through the door. What? James sounded distracted, annoyed at the interruption. I heard a clicking sound. It's nothing. Come here. I smiled. Let them figure it out on their own. I had other preparations to make. I walked around to the side of the house, where the circuit breaker box is mounted on the exterior wall. James labeled everything meticulously when we moved in. There it was. Storage room, outlets, and heat. I flipped the breaker. Click. Power cut. The sun was bright, but it was November in Seattle, which meant it would start getting dark around 4:30. I checked my watch again. 9:28. They had about 7 hours until darkness fell. 7 hours to think about what they'd done. 7 hours trapped together with their guilt and their fear. I could hear them starting to panic now. The door handle rattling. James's voice louder. What the hell? The door won't open. What do you mean it won't open? Emma sounded scared. It's locked from the outside. How is it locked from the outside? The banging started then. Fists on wood. Hey, is someone out there? I walked back to the door and stood there, just on the other side. I could leave right now. I could go to a hotel, call a lawyer, file for divorce, and be done with both of them. But that felt too easy, too clean. I wanted them to face consequences. Real consequences. Public humiliation that matched the private humiliation they'd inflicted on me. Marcus. The thought came to me like divine inspiration. Emma's husband, the man who'd been as betrayed as I had, except he didn't even know it yet. Good, kind, loyal Marcus, who thought his wife was out running errands or meeting a friend for coffee. I pulled out my phone and found Marcus's number. My heart was racing again, but this time with anticipation. I took a breath and made the call. Rebecca. Hey, what's up? His voice was cheerful, unsuspecting. I made my voice sound casual, friendly, just a little bit stressed. Hey, Marcus. I'm so sorry to bother you, but I'm in a bit of a situation. There's a short circuit or something in our storage room, and the door somehow jammed. James went in to try to fix it, and now he's stuck. I'm not home and I don't know when I can get back. Is there any chance you could go over there and help him out? I know it's a lot to ask. Oh man, that sucks. Yeah, of course. I'm actually off today. Professional development day. No problem at all. Emma's supposed to be over at your place helping you with something anyway, right? She left early this morning. My jaw clenched. So that was her cover story helping me. Oh yeah, I said, keeping my voice light. She's been very helpful. Great. I'll head over right now. Should I bring any tools? No, I think James has everything he needs in there. You might just need to help force the door open. The latch gets stuck sometimes. Got it. I'll be there in 20. Thanks, Marcus. I owe you one. Oh, and the door key is under the garden gnome by the front door, if you need to grab anything from inside the house first. Perfect. Talk soon. I hung up and leaned against the house. My hands were shaking again, but this time it was adrenaline, not pain. 20 minutes. Marcus would be here in 20 minutes. The banging on the storage room door was constant now. James was yelling, Rebecca, if you're out there, this isn't funny. Open the damn door. So he knew. He'd figured it out. Good. Oh my God, James. She knows. She knows. Emma's voice was panicked, high-pitched. What are we going to do? One of them whispered. Just calm down. She can't keep us in here. This is kidnapping or false imprisonment or something. She has to let us out. There was a pause. What if she doesn't? What if she just leaves us here? Another voice answered quickly, almost desperately. She won't. She's not crazy. Not crazy. I almost laughed. No, I wasn't crazy. I was calculating. There's a difference, Rebecca. James was pounding on the door again. We need to talk about this. Whatever you think is happening, you're wrong. Just let us out and we can explain. Explain? What possible explanation could there be? I caught you in a locked storage room with my sister and a blanket from our bed. What's the confusion here? Please. Emma was crying now. Becca, please. I'm sorry. We're both so sorry. It was a mistake. A mistake. Like they tripped and fell naked onto each other. Like his penis accidentally ended up inside my sister. A mistake. I stayed silent. I wanted to say something. Cutting. Something that would hurt them as much as they'd hurt me. But I bit my tongue. The best revenge was coming, and it required me to stay quiet. Why isn't she saying anything? Emma's voice was breaking. Why won't she talk to us? She's gone, James said. She locked us in and left. We need to figure out how to get out of here. I heard them moving around inside, trying the door, trying the windows. The storage room has one small window, but it's high up and covered with security bars. James installed those himself. Ironic. The power's out too, Emma said. The heater's not working. Great, that's just great. James sounded furious now. Your sister has lost her mind. Your sister, not my wife. Your sister. Like, I was just Emma's relative. Not his partner of 7 years. This is bad, James. This is really bad. What if Marcus finds out? How would he find out? We just need to get out of here before Rebecca tells anyone. Too late for that, I thought. But they'd find out soon enough. I walked around to the front of the house and sat on the porch steps. It was getting colder. I wrapped my coat tighter around me and waited. I could still hear them occasionally, muffled shouts and bangs. The neighbors were at work. No one would hear them. 17 minutes later, Marcus's truck pulled into the driveway. He got out with a smile, completely oblivious to what he was about to walk into. My heart clenched. Marcus didn't deserve this. He was a good man, married to a liar. Hey. He walked up to the porch. Where's this stuck door? I stood up slowly. It's out back in the storage room. And James is in there. Oh yes. James is definitely in there. Something in my tone made him pause. He looked at me more carefully, and I saw the confusion on his face. Are you okay? No, I said honestly. I'm really not, but I will be. Come on, I'll show you. We walked around to the backyard. The banging from the storage room had stopped. Maybe they'd tired themselves out. Maybe they were trying to come up with a story. It didn't matter. There was no story that would save them. As we got closer, Marcus could hear voices inside. He looked at the padlock on the door with confusion. Why is it locked? Because I locked it, I said simply. He looked at me like I'd grown a second head. You locked James in there? Why would you? And that's when we heard Emma's voice clearly through the door. James, we have to tell the truth. We have to just tell them the truth and deal with it. Marcus froze. Is that Emma? I didn't answer. I pulled the key to the padlock out of my pocket and held it out to him. Why don't you let them out and see for yourself? His hand was shaking when he took the key from me. Rebecca, what's going on? I think you know what's going on, Marcus. I think somewhere deep down you've known for a while, just like I have. He stared at the lock, then at me, then at the door. His face was pale. No, Emma wouldn't open it. He stood there for what felt like an eternity. Inside the storage room, they'd gone quiet again. They must have heard our voices. They knew someone was out there. Finally, Marcus stepped forward. His hands were shaking so badly, he could barely get the key in the lock. When it finally clicked open, and he pulled the padlock free, he just stood there. He didn't open the door immediately. He was gathering courage, steeling himself for what he was about to see. Then he yanked the door open. The late morning sun streamed into the storage room, illuminating everything. And there they were, my husband and my sister. Their clothes were disheveled, hair messed up, guilt written across every inch of their faces. The blanket from my bed was spread on the floor beneath them. Emma had been crying. Her mascara was running down her face. The look on Marcus' face is something I'll remember for the rest of my life. It started as confusion, then recognition, then this crushing devastation that made him physically step backward like he'd been hit. Emma. His voice broke on her name. Marcus. Oh, God. Marcus, I can explain. Emma scrambled to her feet, trying to smooth her hair, her clothes. You locked them in here. Marcus turned to me, his eyes wide with shock. I caught them sneaking into the storage room together. I simply made sure they couldn't leave before you arrived. I thought you deserved to see the truth with your own eyes. James pushed past Emma and stepped out into the yard. He looked furious, but there was fear there too. Rebecca, you had no right. No right? My voice came out louder than I intended. I had no right. I'm your wife. You've been screwing my sister, and I had no right to expose it. We need to talk about this privately. Privately? I laughed, and it sounded unhinged even to my own ears. You want privacy? You've had plenty of privacy. Every time I went to work, every time I ran an errand, every time I trusted you, you've had months of privacy to betray me in my own home. Emma was sobbing now, reaching for Marcus. Please let me explain. Don't touch me. Marcus jerked away from her like she was poison. How long? How long has this been going on? The silence that followed was deafening. Emma looked at James. James looked at the ground. Neither of them wanted to answer. How long? Marcus's voice was deadly quiet now. 8 months, James finally said. 8 months. The words hit me like a physical blow. 8 months. That meant it started in March, right after my birthday. I'd thrown a party, and they'd both been there laughing and celebrating with me. And apparently that's when they decided to start this. 8 months, I repeated numbly. 8 months you've been lying to my face, coming to my house, eating my food, pretending to be my sister, pretending to be my husband. It just happened. Emma started. It didn't just happen. I cut in, screaming now. I didn't care how it started. It didn't just happen. You made choices every single time. You made a choice. You chose to text him. You chose to sneak around. You chose to come to my house and screw him in my backyard while I was at work. I'm sorry. You're not sorry you did it. You're sorry you got caught. There's a difference. Marcus was backing away, shaking his head. I need to leave. I can't look at you right now. Marcus, wait. Emma tried to follow him, but he held up his hand. Don't follow me, don't call me, don't come home, I don't want to see you. He walked past me and I saw tears streaming down his face. My heart broke for him. He paused next to me and said quietly, "Thank you for showing me. I know it wasn't easy." And then he was gone, his truck pulling out of the driveway with a screech of tires. Emma collapsed on the ground, sobbing hysterically. James stood there looking between us, probably trying to figure out how to minimize the damage. How to spin this. How to make himself look less guilty. Rebecca, listen to me. Get out. My voice was cold, flat. This is my house too. Get out. Take your things and get out of my house. You have 30 minutes and then I'm calling the police and having you removed. You can't just kick me out, watch me. You think I don't have evidence now? You think Marcus won't testify about what he just saw? You were locked in a storage room with my sister and a blanket. That's pretty damning, James. His jaw clenched. He wanted to argue. I could see it, but he also knew he had no leg to stand on. Fine. But we need to talk about this eventually, about the house, the assets. My lawyer will contact your lawyer. Until then, you don't speak to me, you don't call me. You don't exist to me anymore. He stood there for another moment, then turned and walked toward the house. Emma was still on the ground crying. You too, I said to her. Get off my property. Becca, please. You have to understand. Understand what? That you wanted my husband? That you couldn't find your own, so you had to take mine? What exactly am I supposed to understand here, Emma? I never meant to hurt you. Well, you did. You destroyed me. Do you understand that? You and James, you took my life and you shattered it. Every memory I have is tainted now. Every family dinner, every holiday, every moment I thought was real. I now have to wonder if you two were sneaking off to somewhere. She flinched at my language. Good. I wanted her to flinch. I loved you, I said, and my voice broke. You were my sister. I would have done anything for you and you did this to me. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry. Sorry doesn't fix this. Sorry doesn't give me back the last 8 months. Sorry doesn't erase what you did. Get out of my sight. If I ever see you again, I don't know what I'll do. She stumbled to her feet and ran for her car. I watched her drive away, tires squealing just like Marcus had. And then I was alone in my backyard, standing in front of the storage room where I'd caught them, where everything had fallen apart and come together at the same time. I walked inside and looked around. The blanket was still on the floor, my blanket from my bed. I grabbed it and threw it in the trash can outside. I never wanted to see it again. The next few hours were a blur. James came and went, loading boxes into his car. We didn't speak. He tried a few times, but I just walked away. What was there to say? Sorry. That didn't cut it. It would never cut it. When he finally left, I changed all the locks. Every single one. I went through the house and gathered every photo that had Emma in it. Every gift she'd ever given me. Every reminder of her existence. And I put it all in a box. I left it on her doorstep that night with a note that said, "Dead to me." I called my parents. That was the hardest conversation I've ever had. My mother cried. My father was silent for a long time. And then he said, "She's not my daughter anymore." Emma tried to call them, tried to explain, but they wouldn't listen. My family closed ranks around me. Emma was cut off completely. The divorce process started immediately. I hired the best lawyer I could find, and thankfully Washington is a no-fault divorce state, but adultery still matters when it comes to asset division. The evidence was overwhelming. Marcus gave a statement about what he'd witnessed. I provided text message logs, photos, timelines. James, lawyer, tried to negotiate, but I wasn't interested in negotiating. 4 months. That's how long it took to finalize everything. 4 months of depositions and paperwork and fighting over every little detail. James wanted to keep the house. I said absolutely not, that house was mine. I'd put the down payment on it with money from my grandfather's inheritance. The judge agreed. He tried to claim he deserved half of my business too, since we'd been married when I started it. My lawyer destroyed that argument. I'd built my consulting firm on my own, with my own clients, my own work. James had contributed nothing. He got almost nothing in the settlement. Just his car, his personal belongings, and the knowledge that he destroyed his marriage for someone who wasn't worth it. Because Emma and Marcus's marriage imploded too. Marcus filed for divorce 2 weeks after the storage room incident. He was ruthless about it. He got the house, the car, most of their savings. Emma tried to claim she deserved more, but Marcus had documentation too. Screenshots of texts between her and James that he'd found on her phone. Receipts from hotels. She'd been sloppy, arrogant, thought she'd never get caught. The social fallout was exactly what I'd hoped for. Everyone knew. I made sure of it. Not in a vindictive way, but in a setting the record straight way. When people asked what happened to my marriage, I told them the truth. My husband had an 8-month affair with my sister, and I caught them together. Word spread fast. James tried to minimize it. Tried to make it seem like it was complicated or like I was partly to blame somehow. But too many people had seen the evidence. Too many people knew the truth. His credibility was shot. At work, at the gym, in social circles, people looked at him differently. Some of his friends cut him off completely. His own brother told him he was disgusted with him. Emma had it worse. She lost her entire family. Our parents wouldn't speak to her. Our cousins, aunts, uncles, they all sided with me. She tried to apologize, sent letters, showed up at my office once. I had security escort her out. She moved to another state about 3 months after everything fell apart. I heard she went to Arizona or New Mexico, somewhere far away, where she could start over, where nobody knew her. Marcus and I became friends through this whole mess. Not romantic, just friends. 2 people who'd been betrayed in the same way, helping each other heal. He's a good man. He deserved better than Emma. And he knows that now. We get coffee sometimes. Compare notes about our respective divorces. Laugh at how ridiculous our exes are. It's therapeutic. 6 months. That's where I am now. 6 months since that Tuesday morning when I caught them in the storage room. 6 months since I locked them in and called Marcus. 6 months since my life exploded and then rebuilt itself into something different. I'm not gonna lie and say I'm completely over it. I'm not. There are days when the anger comes back hot and fierce. Days when I think about all the time I wasted, all the moments that were lies. Days when I see couples together and feel this sharp stab of jealousy and loss. But mostly I feel free. I feel like I dodged a bullet, because think about it. What if I hadn't caught them? What if I'd gotten pregnant? What if we'd had a child together, and then 5 years down the line, I found out about this? How much worse would that have been? I started my own consulting firm from scratch, and it's thriving. Turns out not having a lying, cheating husband undermining your confidence is really good for business. My client list has doubled. I'm making more money than I ever did when I was married. I bought myself a new car last month, a luxury SUV that I've always wanted, but James said was too extravagant. I'm dating someone new. His name is Alex, and he's a graphic designer. We met at a networking event, and he asked me out for coffee. I was hesitant at first, still raw from everything, with James. But Alex is patient. He's kind. He listens when I talk about what happened, and he never makes me feel like I'm damaged or broken. We're taking it slow. I'm not ready to rush into anything, and he respects that. But it's nice to feel wanted again, to feel like someone sees me as valuable, as worth pursuing. James made me feel invisible toward the end, like I was just part of the furniture in his life. Alex makes me feel seen. My relationship with my parents is stronger than ever. They feel guilty, I think, like they should have noticed something was wrong with Emma, should have raised her better, or seen the signs. I tell them it's not their fault. Emma made her choices. She's an adult and she chose to betray her family in the worst way possible. Sometimes I think about that moment when I clicked the padlock shut. That single decision to trap them instead of confronting them immediately. It was the best decision I could have made. If I just walked in and caught them, they could have denied it, minimized it, made excuses. They could have gaslit me into thinking I was overreacting or misunderstanding what I saw. But by locking them in and calling Marcus, I made it undeniable. I forced them to face consequences in real time. There was no way to spin it, no way to lie their way out of it. Marcus saw them with his own eyes, disheveled and guilty in that storage room. That moment of exposure, that public humiliation, it was exactly what they deserved. People have asked me if I regret it, if I think I went too far by trapping them like that. My answer is always the same. Absolutely not. They had 8 months to come clean. 8 months to show me even a shred of respect or honesty. They didn't. They would have kept going indefinitely if I hadn't caught them. So no, I don't regret giving them a taste of what it feels like to be trapped, to be powerless, to have your choices taken away from you. That's what they did to me. After all, they trapped me in a marriage built on lies. The storage room is still there, obviously. I thought about tearing it down, but that felt like letting them win. Like admitting that space had power over me. So instead, I renovated it. I painted the walls a bright, cheerful yellow. I put in new flooring, added shelving, turned it into a proper workshop space. I go out there sometimes to work on projects, and I feel nothing but satisfaction. I took their secret meeting place and made it mine. I've learned so much about myself through this whole nightmare. I learned that I'm stronger than I thought. I learned that I can survive betrayal that would have destroyed me a few years ago. I learned that I don't need someone else to complete me or make me happy. I'm complete on my own. But I also learned something darker about human nature. I learned that the people closest to you, the ones you trust most, are sometimes the ones most capable of hurting you because they know your weaknesses. They know your vulnerabilities. Emma knew exactly how to move through my life without raising suspicion because she'd been part of my life forever. James knew exactly how to manipulate my trust because he'd spent 7 years building it. That's a hard truth to swallow. It makes you question everything. Every relationship, every friendship, every moment of trust. Is this person genuine, or are they just playing a role? Are they really on my side, or are they waiting for an opportunity to betray me? I'm working through those trust issues in therapy. Yes, I started seeing a therapist about 3 months ago, Dr. Morrison. She's helped me understand that what happened with James and Emma doesn't mean everyone will betray me. It doesn't mean I have to live my life in a constant state of suspicion and fear. But it does mean I need to trust my instincts. Looking back, I can see so many red flags that I ignored or rationalized away. The texting, the unexplained knowledge of James's schedule, the way they disappear during family gatherings. My gut was screaming at me for months, but I didn't want to listen because the truth was too painful to face. I won't make that mistake again. If something feels off, I'll investigate. I'll ask questions. I won't gaslight myself into ignoring obvious warning signs, just because acknowledging them would be uncomfortable. The hardest part, honestly, has been dealing with the loss of Emma. Not because I miss her or want her back in my life. I don't. She's dead to me, and that's not changing. But losing a sibling, even a sibling who betrayed you, it leaves a hole. We grew up together. We shared a childhood, a history, inside jokes, and memories that nobody else would understand. All of that is tainted. Now, when I think about our childhood, I wonder if she was always capable of this level of betrayal. Was there something I missed? Some sign that she valued herself over everyone else? Or did she change somewhere along the way? I'll never know because I'll never speak to her again. She sent me a letter about a month ago. It came to my office, forwarded from some address in New Mexico. I recognized her handwriting on the envelope. I stood there holding it for a long time, debating whether to open it. In the end, I did. I'm not gonna lie and say I wasn't curious. The letter was 5 pages long, handwritten, and it was everything you'd expect. Apologies, explanations, justifications. She talked about how it just happened, how she never meant to hurt me, how she was dealing with her own issues in her marriage, and James was just there, and one thing led to another. She tried to explain how the affair started. According to her, she and James had been talking more because she was having problems with Marcus. He was working long hours. They were fighting about starting a family. She felt neglected. James offered a sympathetic ear. They'd meet for coffee to talk. Those coffee dates turned into longer conversations. Emotional intimacy turned into physical intimacy. She claimed she tried to end it multiple times, but kept getting pulled back in. She said she loved Marcus, but couldn't help her feelings for James. She said she never wanted me to find out because she knew it would destroy me and she couldn't bear the thought of hurting me. The whole letter was a masterclass in avoiding accountability. Everything was framed as something that happened to her, not something she actively chose. She was a victim of her feelings, a victim of circumstances, a victim of James. Manipulation. Never mind that she was a grown woman who made choices every single day to continue the affair. The last page was a plea for forgiveness. She wrote that I was her sister, her blood, and that had to count for something. She wrote that she'd lost everything, her husband, her family, her friends, her entire life. And that wasn't punishment enough. Couldn't I find it in my heart to forgive her so we could rebuild our relationship? I read that letter twice, and then I took it outside and burned it, watching it catch fire, watching her words turn to ash. It was cathartic. She wanted forgiveness. She wanted absolution. She wasn't getting it from me. Maybe in 10 years or 20 years, I'll feel differently. Maybe time will soften this rage. But right now, today, she can live with the consequences of her actions. Because here's what she doesn't understand. Forgiveness isn't something you're owed. It's not a right. It's a gift. And you have to earn it. She hasn't earned it. She hasn't done anything except move away and feel sorry for herself. She hasn't taken real accountability. She hasn't shown me that she understands the full scope of what she destroyed. She destroyed my marriage, yes, but she also destroyed my sense of family, my sense of safety, my ability to trust my own judgment. She made me question every happy memory I had of us growing up together. She made me wonder if I ever really knew her at all. That kind of betrayal doesn't get fixed with a 5-page letter and some crocodile tears. James tried to reach out too. About 2 months ago, he sent me an email. It was shorter than Emma's letter, but hit a lot of the same notes. He was sorry. He made a mistake. He never stopped loving me. The affair was a symptom of deeper problems in our marriage that we should have addressed. That last part made me laugh out loud. Oh, so it was my fault. Our marriage had problems, so he decided to my sister. That's rich. Because we did have problems, every marriage does. But normal people address those problems by communicating, by going to counseling, by working on things together. They don't address problems by having an 8-month affair with their wife's sister. I didn't respond to his email. I didn't burn it like Emma's letter, because it was digital, but I did delete it. And then I blocked his email address. I don't need his apologies or his attempts to rewrite history. I know what happened. He knows what happened. We don't need to rehash it. What's interesting is how different their narratives are. Emma's story is all about feelings and emotions and things happening to her. James' story is about marriage problems and mistakes and shared responsibility. Neither of them takes full accountability. Neither of them says, I chose to betray you, and that was wrong, and there's no excuse for it. That's what I would need to hear for forgiveness to even be on the table. Not justifications or explanations or sob stories, just a simple acknowledgement. I did this. It was wrong. I hurt you intentionally through my choices, and I'm sorry, but I'm not holding my breath waiting for that. Meanwhile, my life moves forward. I joined a book club. I started taking pottery classes on Tuesday evenings, and I reconnected with friends I'd lost touch with during my marriage. Turns out, when you're married to someone who's constantly lying and manipulating you, you tend to isolate yourself without even realizing it. James never explicitly told me not to see my friends, but he had a way of making me feel guilty about it, making plans feel complicated, always having some reason why we needed to stay home. Without him, I'm rediscovering parts of myself I'd forgotten existed. I like pottery. I'm not very good at it yet, but I like the meditative quality of working with clay. I like my book club, even though we sometimes spend more time drinking wine and gossiping than actually discussing the book. I like having Tuesday evenings to myself. No longer wondering if that's a night James is sneaking off to meet Emma. My friendships are deeper now, too. I'm more honest about my struggles, more willing to be vulnerable. Before, I always felt like I had to project this image of having the perfect life, perfect marriage, perfect career, perfect everything. Now I'm open about the fact that my life imploded, and I'm rebuilding. And you know what? People respect that. They relate to it. Everyone has been through something difficult. Everyone has scars. One of my closest friends now is a woman named Sarah from my book club. She went through a similar betrayal 5 years ago. Her husband cheated with her best friend. She told me something that stuck with me. She said, "The betrayal is devastating, but in a weird way, it's also liberating because you realize you were strong enough to survive the worst thing you could imagine. And if you can survive that, you can survive anything." She's right. I am stronger now. Not because I wanted to be, not because I chose this path, but because I had to become stronger to survive, and there's power in that realization. I think about the storage room incident sometimes and wonder what would have happened if I'd handled it differently. What if I just burst in and confronted them immediately? What if I'd called a lawyer first instead of Marcus? What if I'd tried to salvage the marriage, gone to counseling, attempted to work through it? But every time I go down that mental path, I come back to the same conclusion. No, I did the right thing for me, for my healing, for my sense of justice. I did exactly what I needed to do. I exposed them publicly. I made them face immediate consequences. I didn't give them time to coordinate their stories or manipulate the narrative. I took control of the situation in the only way I could. Some people might call it revenge, but I call it justice. I call it standing up for myself. I call it refusing to be the silent victim who absorbs the pain quietly while everyone else moves on with their lives. Because that's what they wanted, isn't it? They wanted to keep their affair secret, to have their cake and eat it too. James wanted his stable marriage and his side piece. Emma wanted her safe marriage to Marcus and her exciting affair with James. Neither of them cared about the destruction they were causing as long as they didn't get caught. Well, they got caught and I made sure everyone knew it. I'm not ashamed of that. I'm not ashamed of locking them in that storage room or calling Marcus. I'm not ashamed of telling people what happened when they asked about my divorce. I'm not ashamed of cutting Emma out of my life completely. These weren't acts of cruelty. They were acts of self-preservation and self-respect. You know what the worst part is, though? The absolute worst part of this entire nightmare? It's knowing that somewhere James and Emma probably have a narrative where they're the victims. Where I'm the crazy ex-wife who overreacted and was vindictive and wouldn't let them be happy together. Because yes, last I heard, they're actually together now. After destroying 2 marriages and an entire family, they're giving their relationship a shot. I heard this through a mutual acquaintance who saw them together at a restaurant about a month ago. They looked uncomfortable, according to this person, like they knew they shouldn't be seen in public together, but were trying to make it work anyway. Part of me hopes they're miserable. Part of me hopes they look at each other every day and see the destruction they caused, and it eats away at them. But the realistic part of me knows they probably tell themselves a different story. That what they had was real love worth fighting for. That the affair was just the messy beginning of their true love story. It's disgusting, but it's human nature. People rarely see themselves as the villain in their own story. I see them clearly, though. I see James as a man who was too cowardly to end his marriage before starting something new. I see Emma as a woman who was so insecure and selfish that she had to take something that belonged to her sister just to feel special. I see 2 people who hurt everyone around them because they prioritize their own desires over basic human decency. And if they end up together long-term, good. They deserve each other because relationships built on betrayal rarely last. The trust is already broken. They've both proven they're capable of sustained lying and manipulation. What happens when things get hard between them? When the excitement of the forbidden affair fades, and they're just 2 regular people in a regular relationship, will they cheat on each other? Will they wonder if the other is being faithful? That's their problem, not mine. My problem now is figuring out who I want to be in this next chapter of my life. I'm 34 years old. I thought by now I'd have kids, a stable marriage, maybe a house in the suburbs with a dog. That was the plan. That was the life I was building. None of that happened. The plan exploded. And honestly, I'm okay with that, because the plan was built on a foundation of lies anyway. Better to have it fall apart now than waste another 7 years building on rotten ground. So what do I want now? I want honesty first and foremost in my relationships, in my friendships, in my business dealings. I want people in my life who say what they mean and mean what they say. I want authenticity, even when it's uncomfortable. I want to travel. James never wanted to travel. Always had some excuse about work or money or timing. So, I'm going. I booked a trip to Italy for next month. 3 weeks. Just me, exploring Rome, Florence, and Venice. I'm terrified and excited in equal measure. I've never traveled internationally alone before, but I'm doing it anyway. I want to build my business into something even bigger, and this feels like the first step. I've always played it safe, taken on safe clients, done safe projects. No more. I'm taking risks now, pitching to bigger companies, raising my rates, going after the projects that scare me a little. And yes, I want love again. Maybe not right now, maybe not with Alex, though he's wonderful. But eventually, I want to find someone who sees me, all of me, and chooses me every day. Not someone who settles for me while wishing I was someone else. Not someone who keeps one foot out the door just in case something better comes along. I want real, honest, committed love, and I'm not settling for anything less ever again. The storage room incident taught me something crucial about myself. I'm not someone who accepts betrayal quietly. I'm not someone who makes excuses for bad behavior or convinces myself that abuse is love. When I'm wronged, I stand up for myself. I fight back. I demand justice. Some people might see that as a flaw. I see it as a strength. 6 months ago, I caught my husband and my sister having an affair in our storage room. I locked them inside, cut the power, and called her husband to witness their betrayal. It was calculated, it was harsh, it was exactly what they deserved. And I'd do it again in a heartbeat. Because here's what I've learned. You teach people how to treat you. If I'd reacted with tears and pleading and trying to understand why they did this to me, I'd be teaching them that betrayal is tolerable, that they could hurt me and face minimal consequences. Instead, I taught them that betraying me comes with a cost, a real, tangible, life-altering cost. I taught them that I'm not someone to be trifled with, not someone whose pain can be dismissed or minimized. I taught myself that too. I taught myself that I'm worth fighting for, that I deserve better than what they gave me, that I have the strength to walk away from anything that doesn't serve me, no matter how much history is there. That storage room, that padlock, that phone call to Marcus, those weren't acts of a woman falling apart. Those were acts of a woman taking control, taking back her power, refusing to be a victim. And that's who I am now. Not a victim, not a survivor, even a warrior. Someone who's been through hell and came out the other side stronger, wiser, and absolutely unwilling to accept less than she deserves ever again. So if you're watching this, and you're going through something similar, if you've been betrayed or lied to, or made to feel like you're crazy for questioning what your gut is telling you, listen to me. Trust yourself. Trust your instincts. And when you catch them, when you have that moment of undeniable proof, don't make excuses for them. Don't protect them from consequences. Let them face the full weight of what they've done. You deserve justice. You deserve truth. You deserve to be surrounded by people who respect you enough to be honest, even when honesty is hard. And if they can't give you that, lock them out of your life, the same way I locked them in that storage room. Cut them off, move on, build something better. Because the best revenge isn't about hurting them. The best revenge is living well, being happy, thriving without them, showing that they weren't essential to your happiness. They were just obstacles you had to remove to find it. I'm Rebecca, and I'm 34 years old. I'm a successful businesswoman, a loyal friend, a daughter my parents are proud of, and a woman who refuses to settle for betrayal. My ex-husband and ex-sister thought they could use me, lie to me, and get away with it. They were wrong. And 6 months later, I'm here living my best life. While they're stuck with each other and the knowledge that they destroyed everything good in their lives for a relationship built on lies, I call that poetic justice. If you liked this story, hit that subscribe button. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and what you would have done in my situation. Would you have handled it differently? Would you have been more forgiving? Or would you have done exactly what I did? Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Someone who's questioning their own instincts or making excuses for someone who doesn't deserve it. Sometimes we all need a reminder that we're stronger than we think and that we don't have to accept disrespect in any form. I'm Rebecca, and I'll see you in the next one. Remember, trust your gut, demand honesty, and never ever settle for less than you deserve. Life's too short to spend it with people who don't value you. Stay strong out.